If Cole had known what that night would cost him, he never would have laughed. But he did. He laughed loudly when he saw his wife's farewell letter neatly placed on their walnut vanity in their Brooklyn Heights apartment. He picked it up with 2 fingers, as if it were a joke, like Avery was some delicate little thing who'd come crawling back the moment he snapped his fingers. He didn't even finish reading it. He tore the letter slowly, deliberately, and let the shreds fall into the trash like confetti. He muttered, smirking at his own reflection in the mirror. He had no idea Avery was already gone. No idea she was pregnant. When he turned away, he noticed something small beside her perfume tray, a thin plastic stick, 2 faded pink lines. His heart stopped. This wasn't a prank. It wasn't some casual test. It was real. His smirk disappeared, his breath caught, and suddenly the apartment felt too quiet, too hollow, too empty. He grabbed his iPhone and started dialing her friends, her sister, her mother, even the bakery she loved in Brooklyn Heights. Every call went to voicemail. Avery had vanished, as if she'd been planning this moment far longer than he'd realized. Cole tore through the bedroom, yanking open drawers, rummaging through her vanity. The small velvet jewelry boxes gone. Her work laptop gone. Half her closet gone. But what unsettled him most was how calm everything looked. Nothing broken, no chaos. Avery had left like someone who already knew the exit door by heart. Meanwhile, Avery sat in the back seat of her brother's gray Toyota Camry as it glided quietly over the Brooklyn Bridge toward Manhattan. She leaned her head against the window, one hand resting gently on her stomach. The nausea came in waves, but she breathed through it, counting slowly the way her doctor had taught her. 9 weeks still fragile. No stress. No shouting. No emotional shocks. And that was why she left. Not because she was weak, but because she was finally strong enough. Caleb glanced at her. You okay? She nodded. Just tired. And scared. He didn't say that he was scared too, but the tight line of his jaw said it for him. Back in Brooklyn Heights, Cole paced the apartment like a caged animal. He called Sloane, the woman he'd sworn was just a friend. She didn't pick up. Suddenly, everyone he normally controlled had gone silent. The world wasn't bending for him the way it used to. He reached into the trash, gathering the torn scraps of Avery's farewell letter, trying to piece them together. Most of the words were destroyed, but one sentence cut him like a knife. I won't raise a child in a house where I am treated like an inconvenience. Cole froze. Child, not family. Not our future. Just child, because she no longer saw him as someone worthy of raising it with her. His chest tightened. He tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. In the car, Avery powered her phone off completely. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice stayed steady. First stop is Maya's office, right? Caleb nodded. She'll know what to do. Avery didn't want revenge. She wanted peace. Safety. For herself and for the tiny heart beating inside her. She closed her eyes and whispered softly, a promise only a mother could make. I'll protect you. And somewhere back in Brooklyn Heights, for the first time in his arrogant life, Cole finally understood something. Avery hadn't left to make him react. She left because she was done waiting for him to care. And this time, he was the one left behind. Avery had never stepped foot in a law office before. She wasn't the kind of woman who threw around the word lawyer during arguments. She used to believe marriage could be mended with patience, not paperwork. But that morning, when the elevator doors opened inside a quiet Manhattan high-rise, she realized patience had nearly destroyed her. Caleb walked beside her, his arm hovering protectively near her back in case the dizziness returned. Her morning sickness came and went, sometimes just a passing wave, sometimes a storm. The receptionist guided them into a private conference room. Sunlight poured across a long glass table, a chilled pitcher of lemon water sitting neatly beside clean glasses. Avery stared at her reflection in the tabletop, pale skin, tired eyes, hair tied back in a loose knot. It wasn't the face of someone running away. It was the face of someone finally choosing herself. The door opened. Mrs. Hart, the woman asked. Avery blinked. Instinctively, she almost said, *No, I'm not Mrs. Hart anymore, asterisk, her mind whispered. Yes, she replied, her voice steady. The woman walked in, dark blazer, simple pearl earrings, and a quiet confidence that filled the room. Maya Jennings, one of the youngest family law attorneys in Manhattan, known for her calm precision and the way she could turn terrifying in court if crossed. You're safe here, Maya said, taking a seat. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning, but only what you can manage emotionally. Avery spoke carefully. How Cole had changed. The distant nights. The lies disguised as business trips. The messages she found. She didn't raise her voice once. She didn't cry. The only moment her voice wavered was when she mentioned the baby. I didn't want to leave, she said quietly, her hand resting on her stomach. But I couldn't stay. Maya didn't blink. She took notes with a sleek blank pen, her movements calm and deliberate. You did the right thing, she said. Stress at this stage is dangerous. Our priority is your health and the baby's safety. Avery inhaled shakily. Someone finally understood. Do you have proof of the affair? Maya asked. Avery nodded. Texts, photos, and receipts. Caleb placed a slim folder on the table. Inside were printouts, hotel bookings, late-night ride receipts, a screenshot of Cole buying jewelry Avery never received. Maya flipped through them silently, her expression unreadable. This is strong, she said at last. Very strong. Avery exhaled for the first time in days. We'll file for legal separation and temporary protection of your finances, Maya continued. If he tries to hide assets, we'll stop him. You won't go through this alone. Those words pierced deeper than any insult Cole had ever thrown at her. Avery's chest tightened, not in fear, but in relief. Across town, Cole was pacing the Brooklyn Heights apartment like a man who'd misplaced his own life. He kept checking his phone, calling again and again. Each unanswered ring slammed into his ego like a hammer. Women didn't leave him. Women forgave him. Women begged. Avery didn't. He hurled his phone onto the bed and stormed out, driving toward Manhattan, her mother's place, her favorite coffee shop, anywhere she might be. He didn't know which bridge she'd crossed, but he knew she had help. And that terrified him. Back in the law office, Maya printed the first set of documents. We'll move quickly, she said. But you need rest. Stress will make you sick. Avery nodded. I'll do whatever I have to. When they stepped outside, the Manhattan air hit her face. Cool, sharp, alive. For the first time since she'd seen those two pink lines, Avery didn't feel trapped. She felt powerful. Softly, she whispered to the baby, You're not going to grow up in a house where love feels like fear. Caleb unlocked the car. Ready to go? Avery looked out over the skyline. Yeah, she said. Today is step one. And somewhere across the river, Cole finally realized something terrifying. Avery wasn't hiding. Avery was fighting. Avery had never feared hospitals. But that morning, her hands trembled as she checked in at Mount Si. The waiting room smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. A TV played the morning news, ignored by everyone. Caleb sat beside her, pretending to scroll through his phone, his knee bouncing nonstop. The nurse called her name. Inside the exam room, the lights were soft, almost comforting. Avery lay back as the doctor prepped the ultrasound machine. Her heartbeat raced faster than it should have. Deep breaths, the doctor said gently. 9 weeks can be a sensitive time. Stress isn't your friend. Avery tried. She closed her eyes, inhaled slowly, exhaled carefully. Then the screen flickered. A tiny pulsing rhythm appeared. The baby's heartbeat. Small, fast, steady. Avery pressed her hand over her mouth as tears spilled silently down her cheeks. She had been strong for everyone, for lawyers, for paperwork, for decisions no pregnant woman should ever have to make. But that heartbeat broke her in the softest, most profound way. Caleb brushed a tear from his own face. That's our family, he whispered. The doctor printed the ultrasound photo and handed it to Avery. Whatever you're going through, protect your peace. Stress can harm both of you. Avery nodded, clutching the photo like oxygen. When they stepped outside, the city roared around them, Horns, voices, taxis, but none of it touched her. She slid into Caleb's car and leaned her head against the seat. "I'm not going back," she said softly. "No matter what he says." Caleb didn't argue. He just started the engine and drove. Back in Brooklyn Heights, Cole sat at the dining table, surrounded by silence and the shards of his own pride. His ego told him she'd come running back. His panic whispered that something was different this time. He checked their shared bank account. Avery hadn't touched a cent. That terrified him more than if she'd drained it. A woman leaving in rage could still be negotiated with. A woman leaving in silence had already moved on. He called again, voicemail. He texted, "We need to talk." No reply. In desperation, he drove to Avery's mother's house. No car in the driveway. Curtains drawn. He pounded on the door anyway. A neighbor shouted from across the street, "She's not there, man. Go home." But Cole didn't go home. He went to Sloane's apartment. She opened the door with crossed arms and zero patience. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. "She's gone," Cole muttered. "She left a letter. Then I found the test." Sloane froze. Test. Pregnancy test. Positive. For a moment, her professional mask cracked. The confidence she wore like armor slipped clean off. "You didn't tell me she was pregnant," she hissed. "I didn't know," Cole snapped. "If she goes to a lawyer." Sloane's voice trailed off. Her face went pale. "I can't get dragged into this. If HR finds out, if my clients find out." Cole reached toward her, but she stepped back. The soft click of the door locking behind him told him everything he needed to know. He was officially alone. Across town, Avery was resting in the temporary apartment a friend had lent her. It wasn't big, just a modest space with a view of the street, but it was quiet. Safe. Clean. She made herself peppermint tea and set the ultrasound photo on the counter. Beside it lay her Kindle, open to a line from Marcus Aurelius, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." She read that line 3 times. Her phone buzzed, Caleb checking in. No messages from Cole. Good. Avery curled up on the couch and finally slept. Deep, dreamless, peaceful sleep. The kind she hadn't felt in months. When she woke hours later, something inside her had shifted. This wasn't running away. This was rebuilding. And the first brick was already in place. 2 days later, Avery returned to Maya's Manhattan office. The ultrasound photo was tucked safely inside her journal. She looked stronger, not fully healed, not unbroken, but grounded, like someone who finally knew where the floor beneath her feet was. Maya spread a series of documents across the table, bank statements, text screenshots, digital receipts, each one highlighted and labeled. Avery's hands trembled when she recognized one. A hotel booking under Cole's corporate account on a night he'd sworn he was working late. The room was for 2 guests. "He can't deny this," Avery whispered. "He'll try," Maya replied calmly. "Men like him always do. But numbers don't panic, and receipts don't lie." Caleb sat near the window, arms crossed. "What happens next?" "We file for temporary financial protection and emergency custody considerations," Maya said. "The court will need proof of pregnancy and medical vulnerability. I've already submitted the ultrasound and your doctor's note." Avery exhaled, relief mixing with something sharper, resolve. "And this," Maya added, opening another folder, "is a record of him adding a second phone line to your account 6 months ago, registered to an address that isn't your home." Avery didn't need to ask whose address it was. Meanwhile, across the river in Brooklyn Heights, Cole sat at his office desk, staring at an email from HR. It wasn't a warning yet, but it was a request for documentation on recent expense charges. His stomach dropped. He knew exactly which charges they meant. He slammed the laptop shut. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Avery was supposed to be broken, confused, desperate to talk. Instead, she was silent. Silent was worse than angry. Silent meant strategy. He grabbed his phone and tried to track her location again, but her phone was still off. He called her mother, her sister, the bakery she loved. No one answered. He didn't know it yet, but Avery had told everyone not to give him a single detail. Back in Maya's office, Avery signed the documents with a steady hand. Her signature looked different now, no hesitation, no tremble, just quiet certainty. "You'll need a place to stay long-term," Maya said. "Somewhere secure. Somewhere he can't find you." "I'm working on it," Avery replied. "A friend from one of my design projects offered a sublet in Midtown." "Perfect. Keep receipts for everything. We'll show the court how responsible you've been." It felt strange, having to prove she was a good mother before her child had even taken a breath. But Avery understood. This wasn't just a breakup. It was a war fought on paper in courtrooms, through email trails and timestamps. Caleb escorted her to the elevator, and that's when Avery's phone buzzed. She frowned. She hadn't turned it on since the day she left home. There were 23 missed calls from Cole, 11 from an unknown number she immediately recognized as Sloane's, and one voicemail from a number she didn't know. Her hand hesitated over the screen. "Play it," Caleb said quietly. A man's voice came through, older, professional, irritated. "This message is for Cole Parker. This is corporate accounts reviewing your recent expense anomalies. We need to schedule a discussion. Call us back immediately." Avery stared at the phone. Maya didn't need to hear the voicemail. She saw Avery's face and understood. "His company's investigating," Mia said. "Good. The more pressure he feels, the quicker he'll make mistakes." Avery's heart pounded, not from fear but from something closer to justice. Caleb held the elevator door open. "Ready." She stepped in slowly, one hand over her stomach. "I used to think leaving him made me weak," she said. "But it's the strongest thing I've ever done." The elevator doors closed with a soft whisper. Down on the bustling Manhattan sidewalk, Avery looked up at the skyline. Cold glass, bright sun, endless possibility. And somewhere back in Brooklyn Heights, Cole finally realized something he never imagined. Avery wasn't losing control.
He was.
3 days later, Avery sat inside a conference room on the 28th floor of a midtown office tower. Glass walls framed a view of Manhattan, gray sky, yellow cabs, and crowds moving like they had somewhere important to be. The city felt indifferent. Avery didn't. She finally had something worth fighting for. Maya sat beside her, calm and composed. Across the table sat Cole and his attorney, a man with a too-tight tie and a voice far too smooth to be trusted. Cole looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his jaw clenched like he'd swallowed his own anger, and it was burning him from the inside. Avery didn't look at him. Her focus stayed on the folder Mia had placed before her: medical documents, ultrasound photos, financial records. Facts, not feelings. The judge entered. No drama, no raised voice, just quiet authority. Everyone stood. Everyone sat. The hearing was brief, civil, and painfully real. Maya spoke first. "Your Honor, my client is in early pregnancy and under medical advice to minimize stress. We request temporary financial protection and a freeze on shared assets until the court can review evidence regarding misuse of funds." Cole's attorney leaned forward. She abandoned the marital home without notice. "My client is concerned about her emotional stability." Avery kept her eyes on the table. The words pricked like needles, but she didn't flinch. Maya didn't blink. She left because she is pregnant, and the environment had become unsafe for her well-being. The medical report is included. The judge flipped through the ultrasound images, small, grayscale, but undeniable. 2 pink lines, a heartbeat, proof of life. Cole shifted, breath trembling. When the judge spoke, the decision was clear and sharp. Temporary financial protection granted. Shared accounts will be monitored. Any large withdrawals or transfers must be authorized. We will reconvene with full evidence next month. Avery exhaled slowly. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was a shield, thin, yet strong enough to hold. As everyone gathered their papers, Cole finally looked at her. Not angry, not mocking, just scared. "Avery, can we talk?" he whispered. She didn't turn. Even through the formality of attorneys, that single sentence cut deeper than any scream. Outside the courthouse, Avery leaned against a stone pillar, steadying herself. The cold Manhattan air bit at her cheeks. Caleb approached with 2 Starbucks cups, handing her one. A quiet reminder she wasn't alone. "You did good," he said. Avery shook her head. "I didn't feel brave." "That's because bravery usually feels like shaking." She smiled, small, sad. Across the street, Cole stood alone on the courthouse steps, pretending to scroll his phone while his attorney lectured him. Cars passed. Strangers walked by without caring who he was or what he'd done. For the first time in his life, Cole wasn't the center of anything. He climbed into the back of a black sedan. Shoulders slumped. When the door shut, his composure cracked. His eyes were wet, his jaw trembling. He had never lost control before. Avery's silence was suffocating him. That evening, Avery settled into her midtown sublet. The apartment was simple, white walls, a small kitchen, a couch facing a window glowing with city lights. She placed the ultrasound photo on the nightstand and whispered to her stomach, "We're getting stronger, aren't we?" The baby didn't answer, but she felt it, the quiet magic of resilience. Her phone vibrated. A number she didn't recognize. She expected Cole, but it wasn't. It was someone else. Someone she hadn't spoken to in a very long time. A voice message appeared on her screen. She stared at it, hesitating. Caleb knocked softly on the door. "You okay?" Avery looked back at the phone, her pulse rising. Something in her gut told her that message would change everything. "I don't know yet," she said quietly, "but I think I'm about to." That night, Avery barely slept. The voicemail sat on her phone like a weight. She finally opened it early the next morning, sitting by the window as Manhattan still lay dark and silent. A man's voice came through. "This message is for Avery Hart. My name is Daniel Rhodes from Corporate Compliance. I need to verify some information regarding your husband, Cole Parker. We believe you may have evidence relevant to an internal audit." Avery pressed her palm to her forehead. Cole's world was cracking in places he never thought it would. When Caleb arrived with breakfast, bagels, and warm tea, Avery handed him the phone. He let out a low whistle. "He's being audited?" "It sounds serious," she murmured. "I don't want to get dragged into company politics. I just want peace." "You're not dragging yourself into anything," Caleb replied. He dug this hole. "You're just telling the truth." Avery nodded, though anxiety fluttered inside her. Stress meant danger, for her and the baby. She took slow, steady breaths, letting the hum of the city calm her nerves. Across the river in Brooklyn Heights, Cole woke to an email with a subject line that made his stomach twist. "Request for immediate financial accountability. Action required." He read it twice, pulse hammering. Compliance wanted documentation for hotels, dinners, spa receipts, everything. The email was cold, impersonal, and pointed directly at what Cole had tried to ignore. If the company accused him of misusing corporate funds, this wasn't just a divorce. It could be charges. He slammed his fist on the table, grabbed his phone, and called Sloan. No answer. He called again. Voicemail. Sloan was vanishing, just like Avery. By noon, Avery sat once again in Mia's office. Sunlight poured through the windows as Mia tapped her Montblanc pen against a legal pad. "We can respond to corporate compliance," Mia said. "It's your choice. If you confirm their findings, it strengthens your case for financial protection and possibly custody." Avery hesitated. "Will it make things worse for him?" "Not for you," Mia answered simply. Avery looked down at her stomach, still small beneath her sweater. "I don't want revenge." "I know," Mia said gently. "But accountability isn't revenge." Avery swallowed and nodded. "Send them what they need." As Mia drafted the formal response, Avery scrolled through old photos on her phone, vacations, date nights, gifts from before everything changed. One picture caught her, Cole holding a small Tiffany box, smiling like he meant it. She remembered wearing the bracelet every day back then, believing the love behind that smile. Now she wondered if it had ever truly belonged to her at all. That evening, Cole knocked on Sloane's apartment door again. A neighbor leaned out of the hallway. "She moved out yesterday," he said. "Left in a hurry." Cole froze. The hallway felt like it was closing in on him. Sloane hadn't texted, called, or left a note. She was cutting all ties, protecting herself. He walked back to his car, gripping the steering wheel, breathing hard. Avery was gone. Sloane was gone. His job was slipping through his hands. For the first time, Cole considered something he'd never let himself believe. He was the problem. Back at the Midtown sublet, Avery brewed peppermint tea and sat on the couch with the lights low. She placed her hand over her stomach and whispered, "We're almost safe. Just a little longer." Her phone buzzed with a new email from corporate compliance. "Thank you, Mrs. Hart. We'll be in touch soon. ****. She closed her eyes. Avery wasn't fighting for victory anymore. She was fighting for a life where her child would never have to learn what heartbreak felt like. A life where love didn't come with conditions, silence, or cruelty. The city lights shimmered across her face, soft, warm, steady. For the first time, she didn't feel afraid of tomorrow. But not far away, Cole stared at his computer screen as a new email appeared, one demanding his immediate attendance at a disciplinary hearing. And something told him that tomorrow had every intention of destroying whatever was left of his pride. A week later, Avery returned to the courtroom for a status review. Her steps were steadier now. The nausea still came and went, but the anxiety no longer ruled her chest. She carried the ultrasound photo in her journal, not as proof for anyone else, but as a reminder of why she kept breathing through every storm. The courtroom felt colder this time. Cole arrived in a navy suit that couldn't hide how much weight he'd lost. His tie was crooked, his eyes rimmed in red. He used to walk like he owned every room he entered. Now he walked like he hoped no one would notice him at all. Maya stood beside Avery, calm as ever. "Remember," she whispered, you don't have to speak unless the judge asks. I'll handle everything." Avery nodded. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Maya began. "Your Honor, we've submitted additional financial documents showing repeated corporate charges unrelated to business activity. We also have a statement from corporate compliance confirming an ongoing internal investigation." Cole's attorney shot to his feet. "This is irrelevant to the divorce." Maya's voice was steady, smooth as glass. "It is relevant if Mr. Parker was misusing marital assets to facilitate an extramarital relationship. Corporate fraud isn't a separate matter here. Marital finances are intertwined." The judge reviewed the paperwork, tapping a finger against the table. "Mr. Parker, do you dispute these documents?" For a long moment, Cole said nothing. His throat worked, but no sound came out. Finally, in a hoarse whisper, "No, Your Honor." Avery closed her eyes. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath. "Given the pregnancy," the judge continued, "and the tangible evidence of financial misconduct, the court will maintain the freeze on shared assets. Ms. Hart will retain temporary financial protection. We will reconvene for a full hearing next month." Cole slumped in his chair. His attorney scribbled furiously on a yellow pad, but Cole didn't look up. He stared at the table like a man studying the wreckage of his own life. When the proceedings ended, Avery stood slowly. Her legs trembled, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of everything she'd carried. She didn't look at Cole. She didn't need to. She had learned that not all victories were loud. Some were as simple as steady breathing and quiet steps. Out in the hallway, the air smelled faintly of old carpet and polished wood. Caleb stood waiting on a bench, his head snapping up the second he saw her. "How'd it go?" Avery didn't answer right away. Instead, she took his hand and placed the ultrasound photo in his palm. "We're protected," she said softly. He pulled her into a hug. Careful, gentle. For a moment, Avery let herself lean on someone else. Across town, Cole stepped out of the courthouse into the blinding afternoon sun. He didn't speak to his attorney. He didn't answer his phone. He sat on the courthouse steps, elbows on his knees, head hanging low. A woman approached, someone from the office he vaguely recognized. She didn't say hello. She didn't offer comfort. "They've scheduled the disciplinary hearing," she said. "Tomorrow morning. You should show up." Cole stared at her hollow. "You think they'll fire me?" She didn't sugarcoat it. I think they're past that. She walked away, leaving him there with a truth he'd never imagined. The world hadn't fallen apart because Avery left. It fell apart because she finally stopped staying. That night, back at the Midtown sublet, Avery warmed a bowl of soup and settled onto the couch. Her body felt heavy, drained, but her heart felt lighter than it had in months. Her phone buzzed. A new email from corporate compliance. Thank you for your cooperation, Mrs. Hart. Your information has been helpful. We may request further clarification. Asterisk, asterisk. She set the phone aside and pressed a hand to her stomach. Almost there, she whispered. The baby kicked. Just a tiny flutter, but enough to make her gasp and smile through tears. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was preparing for a future where love didn't hurt, a future where she and her child were enough. The disciplinary hearing took place the next morning inside a corporate boardroom in Midtown. Glass walls, chrome chairs, a long table built for decisions, not mercy. Cole arrived in another ill-fitting suit, his confidence gone, his reputation unraveling faster than his career. 3 executives sat across from him, files neatly stacked, phones face down, expressions carved from stone. Mr. Parker, the compliance director, began. Your expense reports show repeated charges for hotels, airfare, dining, and entertainment unrelated to business activity. Cole cleared his throat. I can explain. We've also received corroborating information from a third party confirming your misuse of corporate funds for personal entanglements. Cole froze. He knew exactly who that third party was. Avery, the director continued. These are violations of company policy and potential misuse of shareholder assets. Effective immediately, your access to all corporate accounts is revoked pending legal review. Cole's world tilted. You can't do this, he said, panic twisting his voice. I've worked here 8 years. 8 years, the director replied evenly. And this is how you chose to finish them. No shouting, no courtroom drama, just clean, sharp consequences. When the session ended, Cole walked out into the chill of Manhattan air. Traffic roared around him, horns blaring, people rushing past, none of them caring who he was or what he'd lost. For the first time since Avery left, what he felt wasn't fear. It was regret. That evening, Avery sat in the small living room of her Midtown sublet, a blanket over her legs and a steaming cup of tea in her hands. A soft breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the hum of the city below. Car horns, footsteps, distant laughter. Life went on, even when hers had paused. Maya called. Good news, she said. His job's in trouble. The investigation's moving quickly, and the company's cooperating. That strengthens your position enormously. Avery didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She wasn't happy that Cole was unraveling, just relieved that he could no longer drag her down with him. Thank you, she whispered. I just want this to end. It will, Maya assured her. You're close. When the call ended, Avery glanced at the ultrasound photo on the coffee table, a tiny heartbeat, a fragile life that deserved something better. She pressed her palm against her stomach. We're safe, she murmured. We really are. Across the river, Cole sat alone in the same living room where he'd once laughed and torn her farewell letter like it meant nothing. The pieces were long gone, but now he remembered every word. He remembered how she'd asked for honesty, for understanding, for the chance to be heard. He remembered brushing her off as if her pain were an inconvenience. Now, the silence around him felt unbearable. He dialed her number. Straight to voicemail. Avery, he said, voice thick. I know you don't want to hear me, but I'm sorry. I messed up worse than I ever realized. Just please call back. He hung up, staring at the wall, waiting for a reply that would never come. In the sublet, Avery's phone lit up on the nightstand. She didn't look at it. She couldn't. Not tonight. Curling beneath the blanket, she let exhaustion take her, until it didn't. Around midnight, a sharp pain tore through her abdomen, deep and sudden. Panic rose in her chest. She pressed a trembling hand to her belly, breathing hard. Every article, Every warning she'd read about early pregnancy raced through her mind. Stress could do damage. Caleb rushed from the kitchen, a mug of tea still steaming in his hand. "What's wrong?" "Just pain," Avery gasped. "Maybe stress. I need to lie down." He helped her to the couch. She closed her eyes, willing her body to calm, willing her baby to hold on. The minutes dragged. Then the pain began to ease. Her breathing slowed. Her heart steadied. When she opened her eyes again, the city lights outside seemed softer, gentler, like the worst had passed without breaking her. "You scared me," Caleb said quietly, sitting beside her. "You and me both," Avery whispered. She rested her hand over her stomach, steady and sure. Whatever Cole had lost, she was building something stronger, something that would last. By morning, rain swept over Manhattan, soft at first, then heavy, drumming against the windows like a heartbeat. Avery woke early, still tired but calmer. Caleb made oatmeal and mint tea, refusing to leave her side until she promised she felt better. Her body felt fragile. Yes, but her will had never been steadier. A notification flashed on her phone. Court hearing reminder. Today, 1:00 p.m. Financial misconduct review. She set the phone down and breathed deeply. This was it. The day that could decide everything: support, custody, protection. The foundation of her new life. She dressed with quiet care, a loose sweater, soft scarf, flat shoes. Nothing bold, just steady. Across the river in Brooklyn Heights, Cole stood before the mirror, tying his tie with trembling hands. He looked older now, stripped down to the truth, nothing left to hide behind. Outside the courthouse, his attorney met him. "Be respectful. Answer only what's asked. Don't get emotional." "Will they arrest me?" Cole asked. The attorney didn't respond. Silence was answer enough. The courtroom was smaller this time, quieter. Rain streaked the tall windows in silver lines. Avery sat beside Maya, one hand resting on the gentle curve of her belly. Cole entered a moment later. Their eyes met. Not for long, not with anger or longing, just a flicker between two people who once knew each other deeply, now strangers sharing the same last name. The judge entered. Maya rose. "Your Honor, we have submitted full documentation confirming that Mr. Parker diverted both marital and corporate funds for personal use. Corporate compliance has also forwarded their findings to the district attorney." Cole's attorney stood. "Mr. Parker is cooperating fully, Your Honor. We ask for leniency. He's willing to repay any contested amounts." The judge's expression remained unreadable. Repayment does not erase intentional misuse. Cole's jaw tightened. He stared at the table, saying nothing. The man who once laughed at Avery's pain now sat silent, listening as his own actions sealed the consequences around him. The judge continued, "Given the pregnancy, the medical concerns, and Mr. Parker's documented misconduct, the court grants Miss Hart full temporary custody and extended financial protection. A formal review will follow pending the outcome of the criminal investigation." Avery exhaled shakily, the breath she'd been holding for weeks. The judge stood. Court adjourned. Maya placed a hand on her shoulder. "You won." Avery shook her head. "Not won. Just safe." They stepped into the hallway. Maya was already calling the sublet's landlord about extending the contract. Caleb promised to pick up groceries on his way home. Avery leaned back against the wall, eyes fluttering closed. Then she felt it, a small flutter inside her belly, light and alive. Her child would never know the sound of slammed doors or angry shouting. The world she was building was quiet and safe. Outside, police lights flashed against the rain-slick pavement. Avery froze, not from fear, but from disbelief. Two officers walked past her, heading straight toward Cole and his attorney. Papers exchanged hands. Quiet words were spoken. Then, carefully, they cuffed Cole's wrists.
He didn't resist.
He didn't shout. He didn't even look for sympathy. He just lowered his head as they led him down the courthouse steps into the waiting car. Avery watched from the doorway. There was no joy, no triumph, just a quiet understanding. Some endings don't need applause. She steadied herself against the railing. Caleb appeared beside her, hand gentle on her arm. "You want to go home?" he asked. Avery looked up at the rain-soaked city, breathing in its cold, clean air. "No," she said softly. "I want to go forward." She didn't look back, not once. The chapter that began with a torn letter and a cruel laugh was ending exactly as it should. In consequence. Hours later, Avery sat curled on the couch in the sublet, wrapped in a soft blanket. She read aloud from a parenting book, one hand resting on her stomach. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time, tomorrow didn't scare her. Her life wasn't small anymore. It wasn't silent. It wasn't controlled by anyone else. It was hers and her baby's. And that was enough. Spring arrived quietly in Manhattan. The air warmed, trees unfurled new leaves, and the city felt less like a battlefield and more like a place for rebuilding. Avery sat on a bench at the edge of Central Park, wrapped in a light coat, watching joggers and children chasing pigeons. Caleb sat beside her, sipping coffee from a paper cup. The world looked ordinary again, peaceful, even gentle. It had been a long time since anything felt gentle. "The doctor said everything looks perfect," Avery said softly. 10 more days and we'll know the gender." Caleb grinned. "Ready for a tiny soccer star or a ballet queen?" Avery laughed, a sound that startled her, bright and unguarded. It had been weeks since laughter came that easily. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya. "Investigation closed. Charges filed. You won't need to testify unless his attorney pushes for a plea deal. Rest. Live your life. Enjoy the peace you earned. Asterisk asterisk." Avery read it twice, not out of disbelief, but because it felt unreal that the storm was truly over. She looked up at the sky, soft blue, no clouds, no thunder waiting, just sky. "Want a walk?" Caleb asked. She nodded, and they moved slowly along the path. Avery didn't rush. She savored every step, every breath, every heartbeat. A month later, Avery stood inside her new apartment, small, bright, full of light. White walls, wooden floors, a city view that shimmered at night. She placed a crib near the window and unfolded tiny baby clothes on the bed, pastel colors, soft fabrics, hope stitched into every seam. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen island, emails filling the screen, messages from new clients and designers recommending her for projects. A woman named Mrs. Whitmore wanted her help decorating a nursery in her Upper West Side townhouse. Avery traced her fingers across the screen, smiling. Design had always been hers. She had simply forgotten it for a while. Caleb carried in the last box, setting it down with a grin. "You're officially moved in." Avery looked around the apartment, taking in the light, the stillness, the promise of everything new. It wasn't big. It wasn't luxurious. But it was hers, and every corner breathed safety. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" Caleb asked. "For staying when everything fell apart." He shrugged. "You don't thank family for showing up. We just do." One evening, Avery sat by the window, a baby-named book open on her lap. Her stomach curved gently beneath her t-shirt, warm and full of life. The baby shifted inside her, light, curious, real. She smiled, reached for the ultrasound photo, and pinned it to the refrigerator door. Next to it, she placed a blank postcard she'd bought in Central Park. On the front, a painting of a mother holding her child beneath blooming cherry blossoms. On the back, Avery had written a promise. "You will know love that never needs to be earned." There was no bitterness left in her words, no anger to carry. Rage was heavy, and Avery had learned that letting go made room for better things. A week later, she sat in a small cafe near Central Park, sketching project ideas on her MacBook Air. Sunlight spilled across the table, warm and golden. The baby kicked again, and she pressed a hand to her belly, smiling. Life hadn't gone back to normal. It had become something new. Softer. Safer. A message appeared on her screen from Maya. Final confirmation. Assets distributed. Case closed. You're free. Asterisk asterisk. Avery closed her eyes for a moment, just long enough to feel what freedom tasted like. It tasted like breath she didn't have to hold anymore. Caleb appeared with 2 cups of hot chocolate. Ready to head home. Future mom? Avery stood, stretching her back, feeling the weight but also the strength in her body. Yeah, she said with a small smile. Let's go home. They walked together through the park. Leaves rustled overhead. A gentle breeze pressed at their backs, and sunlight warmed her face. Avery didn't look behind her. The past was over. The hurt was done. And the future was already walking toward her, tiny heartbeat first, tiny feet soon. This time, the world didn't feel dangerous. It felt possible. Months later, on a warm summer evening, Avery sat on a wooden bench in Central Park with her newborn daughter sleeping against her chest. The world moved slowly, softly. The sky was brushed in pastels as the sun dipped behind the skyline. Children laughed in the distance, runners passed with steady breaths, and the breeze carried the scent of grass and warm pavement. For so long, Avery had believed her life ended the night Cole laughed at her letter. But sitting there, her child's tiny heartbeat pressed to her own, she realized something gentler, truer. Her life had only just begun. She held her daughter closer. "You were my courage before you even existed," she whispered. There was no hatred left inside her, no bitterness weighing her down. Forgiveness hadn't come because Cole deserved it, but because Avery deserved peace. A couple walking by smiled at the baby. Avery smiled back. It felt simple, natural, human. She remembered the nights she'd cried quietly so no one would hear, the lonely appointments, the fear that once threatened to consume her. But here she was, safe, free, loved by the tiny life in her arms. Sometimes healing didn't look like fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes healing was just a quiet park, a warm sunset, and a heart that no longer hurt. Avery kissed her daughter's forehead. "You will grow up knowing love that never breaks you." And with that promise, the past finally let her go.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.